everyone had a lovely Halloween or not, but I think Asheville had a lovely Halloween.
The grand total is 0 kids at my house. So now I got all this candy to eat.
I have some too.
That's why you should always buy candy that you really like.
I don't know why anybody would buy candy that they don't like. You always end up with extra.
Candy is expensive. And I don't know. If you get the dum-dums, it's like a huge bag for
We've been in our neighborhood.
Bag. Then you have the there's extra keep bag, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Me and my partner intentionally hid our candy in the house so that we wouldn't be able to eat it all before Halloween showed up, and then we really struggled to find it actually in time.
I think we should run with us for today's icebreaker. I want to hear what's in everyone's keep bag. So what's the candy that either you eat before the trick-or-treaters come, or that you kind of buried at the bottom of the bowl, or have a separate secondary bag stash of candy, or whatever. I'm the weird lady that gives out stickers and pencils too. So
Reese's Pieces.
Me too.
Oh yeah.
Me too.
I really like Reese's Take Fives, and you never see them anytime but Halloween. They've got the pretzels in there and some caramel, and it's good.
Hot take on the Take Five. I would say the Snickers or the Twix. Definitely chocolate.
All right. So
Or Kit Kats.
Kit Kat.
So I also think that the Kit Kats that come, like the little ones that are like an inch long, they're better than the regular Kit Kats because you get to eat them all as one bite, and the cookies proportionally better.
All right, well, let's get started here. My name is Michelle Myers. I use she, her pronouns. I would like to acknowledge that we are on the historic lands of the Cherokee people. This is the November 1st, oh my goodness, meeting of the Blue Horizons Community Council, brought together to achieve the community objective of Buncombe County and the city of Asheville getting to 100% renewable energy by 2042. I'm really excited to be with you all here today. I see some folks that I don't recognize on the call, which is always exciting. So maybe we can just go around and do a quick round of introductions. Name and pronouns, and member, not member, or staff would be great to know.
Hey, I can go next. My name is Ben. I use he, him pronouns, and I actually have not had the candy that I like most this year, which is candy corn, or in my favorite variety, which is the candy pumpkins, because they're a little bit bigger than candy corn. I haven't had any this year because they just haven't been in my field, but if anyone knows where I can get enough to make me sick, then please let me know.
They'll be on sale now, so I check ready.
Oh, man, it's dangerous. It's dangerous.
Keith Bamberger, he, him. I'm on the community council.
Micah Kraus, she, her, community council.
Hey, Verb. I'm on the council for this meeting and one more, and payday bars.
I'm Clary Franco, she, her pronouns, on the council, and I'm going to go with Butterfingers.
I'm Rory Aurora Wynn, she, her, and I'm a new American Climate Corps member serving the city of Asheville.
Dean Berger, he, him, and this is my first meeting. Just checking to see what's going on.
This is Brad. I hope you can hear me. I'm in Raleigh for the Making Energy Work conference, so I'm trying this on my phone for the first time. And him, Brad Rouse.
Thanks, Brad.
I'm Jennifer Bennett. I'm on the council with Duke Energy, and she, her.
Rakesh or Rocky, he, him, and I have some Indian snacks in my snacks basket.
I'm Summer Winkler, she, her. I'm on staff with Greenbelt Alliance, and I'm really feeling the plain Hershey's right now.
I'm Mark, he, him, and I'm the director for Greenbelt Alliance, and I'm that weird health conscious hippie parent giving out emergency vitamin C packs.
Jim Tolbert, just visiting and attending and engaging with the community engagement subcommittee team, and he, him, and you know what I'd really prefer is one of the a good crisp apple from the farmer's market.
I'm Jerry
I'm
Meyer.
Kira Bulan. Go ahead, Jerry. Go ahead.
Jerry Meyer, he, him. I'm a resident of Givens Estates and linked up with Brad Rouse on a 100% renewable plan. And I'm forced to eat spinach right now to build my iron back.
I'm Kira Bulan, Sustainability Program Manager for the City of Asheville. And my child got a caramello in their box last night and was thoughtful enough to know it's my favorite. I got passed over and he gets a gold star.
Nice.
We'll chime in. It's Rick and Judy, they, them, and hey, you, and or whatever anyone wants to call us works. And everything in the bag is good.
This is Peter Moffat. I'm head of the Environmental and Sustainability Committee at Deerfield, and I gotta stay off candy according to my wife. So I do cheat every once in a while with a piece of chocolate.
And this is Bridget Herring. I'm the Sustainability Director with the City of Asheville, and I've been snacking on a lot of Twix today.
Hi, my name is Eva Davis. I am the AmeriCorps Fellow serving out the County Manager's Office and a Tootsie's Pop.
How many minutes does it take, Eva?
I can never figure it out.
3. Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for that extended introduction. It's always nice to see new faces and learn a little bit about your candy preferences. All right. So let's see. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes or any amendments to the minutes from last meeting?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Wonderful. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Or I should say any amendments? Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. Passes unanimously. In our agenda, can everybody click on, I'm noticing I'm in the Google Doc and some of the items on here are no longer hyperlinked. Is anyone else having that experience? I think there's also a PDF that was sent out and maybe that one doesn't have this issue. But the written staff report is in here. I hope folks take a look at it. The staff does take some time to update that every month. And that's where you can find financial items and updates on our programs like neighbor to neighbor solar, things like that. Is there anything from the staff report staff want to highlight or any announcements?
I don't think so.
I'll just mention we had a fantastic fundraising party at Brad Rouse's house. Thanks, Brad, for hosting, and for all of you who came, and for those that donated to the campaign. This helps forward the work that we're doing to implement the 100% renewable energy plan. So we'll be doing additional fundraising through a crowdfunding campaign through the rest of the year. We're going to launch that in about 2 weeks. But this really helps pay for essential staff activities and the work of this council. So thanks so much for supporting it.
All right, the next item on here is the Clean Energy Communities Partnership C2C Expert Match. And this is a program the World Resources Institute and I think the Department of Energy are coming together to provide resources and strategic planning guidance to communities like ours that are seeking to reach, not necessarily 100%, but that have ambitious renewable energy targets. And this was actually suggested by county staff, but they weren't able to attend today. I don't know if anybody has any more insight into it, but I'll drop it in the chat. And I think we should apply for it. There is an application process. And you can be a non-governmental organization, but it would be wonderful to actually do this. Or you can be a city, tribal government, regional planning organization, or utility or university. So since we are a conglomerate, how fun would we be a wonderful applicant for this or what? Does anybody have any additional insight into this program? I know there have been a few different webinars on this and other resources related to the IRA.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Rocky, this is the program that you were talking about, right? Because Rocky and I met about a week or so ago, and I believe this is what you had brought to my attention. Is that correct, Rocky? Is it the same program that you were talking about?
That's NREL and this is WRA from the sound of it.
Sorry, what's the difference?
Oh yeah, no, this seems to be the World Resource Institute program, and the other one is NREL, right? So
this is actually NREL, and I know the World Resources Institute is promoting it as well. I think it's the same though.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad. Okay, I need to look into it. Michelle, do you have a link of the, or is it in there?
There's a link in the chat, yes.
Okay, I'll look into it. Yep, it's a C2C program. Yep, yeah, same program. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Rock, I don't know if you want to just mention that you have some contacts that either work at NL or some association with this program, or at least some interest that you expressed to me.
Yeah. My grad school classmate is actually the program manager for C2C program. So, I'm happy to connect to her. I mean, actually, I had asked her, like, when was this? Back in June. She asked me to fill out an application, and after 10 minutes, her team will reach out. Not 10 minutes, sorry. The application form will take 10 minutes, and then after we finish the application, they will reach out with next steps. But I'm happy to connect as well.
Well, wonderful. It's up to 60 hours of technical assistance to community stakeholders it specifically says that have decision-making authority. And if there's no objections, I think we should apply as a group. So the BHP would then be the applicant, but I wonder if the city and the county and maybe even Duke and Jennifer, if you need to share this with someone before you can say yes, that's totally understandable. Might also be willing to be like a co-partner in receiving this support.
Yeah, Michelle, I'm happy to run it down and also do a little bit of internal conversation and just see if anywhere else is using it. Just run it down internally. I'm happy to do that before our next meeting.
That'd be great. I think the applications are on a rolling basis. We don't have to apply right away. But I think I'm going to ask if the Strategic Planning Committee will take this on as well. Or I should say the 100% Plan Committee will take this on and start to get the application together, and we can, decide to approve or look at the application at our next meeting. Brad, are you willing? I think we may have lost Brad conveniently whenever things are getting assigned, right? You have your hand up, Brad?
I'm guessing he's having trouble unmuting because he keeps on waving his thumb over there.
Oh, wait, here we go. This is just a whole new thing for me. I'm sorry. Does this have anything to, I heard about one grant source today at the NCSEA conference called the Community Pollution Reduction Grant, which is a federal, does this have anything to do with that, or is that something we know
I
about?
think it's different buckets of money, and I think this is a technical expertise matching program, but they probably will direct folks. I am now making an assumption that they will direct folks to other programs.
Okay, this community pollution reduction grant sounded interesting because you need to come up with a community plan, which is similar to the planning work that we've done. So I just didn't know if anybody had looked into it, but it might be worth also looking at something like that.
We can put that on the agenda for next meeting if you want to get a deep dive on that. I actually happen to work with someone that helped write that and is on the steering committee for that program. They're not based in North Carolina, but we could talk about that unless other people have already looked at that as application in Asheville. The state, I know the state energy office may have looked at it as well.
Yeah.
Keith put it in the chat. Yeah, there's the link to the state energy office. Why don't we put that on the agenda for the next meeting to do a deeper dive on that?
So I also think it's being likely to be managed by the Division of Air Quality for whom I work. The Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. We also have DERA funds. We just put out a announcement for another grant program, though it's for diesel reduction improvements, which is not something that is a good fit for Blue Horizons, unless we own a bunch of diesel vehicles that I didn't know about.
Is it for government fleet only vehicles?
No, it's not. The DERA grants are not for government fleets. So there's usually a match, and so usually governments apply for it because the governments can do fancy magic math and get the match, where with most businesses it has to be an upfront thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if we had a commercial partner, though, we could encourage them to apply?
Yes.
We don't, but if we did.
Right. Like if the Energy Savers van was a diesel van, we could do a propane or a natural gas conversion and pay for that conversion. Or replace it with an electric vehicle that did the same thing. So it's, yeah.
Since this has come up, Keith, can you just, to punctuate the DERA grants, can you just drop a link in the chat, or do you happen to know the deadline or if it's a rolling application?
They just announced it today, but I'll drop something in the chat.
Okay, or circulate it afterwards, because I think, it could be a good opportunity if we had the right partner. We certainly have the goal of having the right partner. So knowing what the deadlines are would be great. And then in terms of the community pollution reduction grant, now I know you're looking for a link that I asked you to get. Do you understand if they're looking for local projects? The state is handing out funds to local projects, or are they looking for large, are they driving?
So what I've heard is that they like And in general, they like group projects, where different partners come together. Which brings into mind, we really should, if we want to do this, we need to at least reach out to like Greenworks and some other places that might apply for this similar funding, so we're not competing and we can come up with a cooperative grant that supports us both. Of course, when you do a cooperative grant, each agency doesn't get as much money, but yeah, I'll have to look into that and do some more research on that.
Yeah. Sam, is this something that you guys had already looked at, or?
We looked at it when it was directly to the EPA. Now that it's shifted to the state energy office, we haven't explored it thoroughly. So I think it's definitely worth taking a deeper dive and then seeing what we could propose and then who our partners would be. So yeah, let's look at it more thoroughly.
So the webinar for the climate pollution reduction grant is December 7th. So it will be, and it's at 6:30 p.m. So I don't think we have another, she'll pull up a calendar. That's either the day of our next meeting or like right before our next meeting. So can we make sure that we have a representative on that webinar?
Yeah.
And then so we can report out at the next meeting.
Sounds good.
Great, thank you. And then Brad, we're going to ask the 100% committee to work up an application for the NREL program. Okay. We'll follow up. Okay. Well, this is exciting. I mean, it's just wonderful that these programs are all coming down at once, and I'm really happy to put them on the agenda or discuss them as they get announced in real time. And Keith, thank you so much for bringing them to our attention. So I wanted, this is actually under new business because we didn't get to the final brainstorming exercise. But Jamie actually did a really good job of synthesizing the Post-it notes that we came up with last time. And I'm going to drop a link in the chat. I also, I know some people have a problem with Google Drive. Is that still an issue? Are there folks on the call that can't access Google Drive documents?
That's me, Michelle.
Okay. I did great. I did email them to you, so you have them in a Word doc in your inbox. But let's just remember to send out all of the supporting documents as a document with the agenda. And you may have Jamie, but
Jamie did provide them to me. I appreciate it.
Oh, great, wonderful. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat, and then Jennifer, you can follow on the Word doc. Sorry, I'm busted with way too many tabs open right now. Okay, so here is the synthesis of the brainstorming exercise that we went through last time. And I think we should just kind of run through this briefly and decide on the best way to tackle all of these really wonderful ideas and just come up with a few action items. I had a nice conversation with Jennifer before this meeting, and we could actually put on the agenda some of the Duke programs that came up, so we can look at them in more detail and maybe even bring in someone from the agency or the part of the organization that's running these programs more directly, if we wanted to do that. It may or may not make sense depending on which one, but there's just an example of how to take these ideas, these priorities that we've identified, these questions that we have, and really work them into a forward-looking program or a forward-looking work plan. So the heat pump hot water heater bulk purchase program, I I don't know who Don Nicholson is. Is there an action item here?
Don is the one who led the effort with the tech committee. He's a professor at UNCA and a builder, something to that effect. He participates a lot with the critical services microgrid group.
Okay.
But he'd be the guy to do it.
So the action item would be to he's already coming to the meeting that you hold, Brad?
He has not. So really we need to enroll him, make sure this is something he still wants to champion. He was championing it for a while, had been talking to a lot of the distributors, had actually worked up a deal for us to do bulk purchases, and then got waylaid by a number of other activities. But I guess the question I have is this not something that Electrify Asheville's effort is going to, we ought to make sure we coordinate those activities.
I just put it on myself to make sure that Don has been engaged in some way, which would be, I'm coordinating with the Electrify program as well. So I think I'll follow up on that. Thanks for walking me through who he is. I didn't know him actually, so that's really great. We definitely will incorporate into Electrify Asheville Buncombe. It was nice to have spokespersons from that campaign on the call last week. And I think, they're looking at a rollout in February of the platform. So that I think we can actually just assume that that's going to happen going forward. Just for disclosure, I'm contracting with them. So and we've been having a nice monthly meeting with GBA staff and the folks at Bright Spaces who are running the Electrify Asheville Buncombe program. And they also have I think a monthly or quarterly meeting with the city and county. So they are going to be very well integrated. Folks from the Green Bank have been attending those meetings or have had a separate meeting. The Exploring Duke's new on-bill financing, Jennifer, what would be the best way to do this exploration? Is it something that is ripe now, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think knowing what the details, everybody might be familiar with it, or I'm sure you've heard it in the news, it's tariff on bill. And essentially it allows for acquiring energy efficient appliances, like water heaters, heat pumps, to bring your home up to efficiencies, but then put it on your bill for Duke. And I thought that there was a question in the last meeting about whether that tariff on bill program was going to be combinable with another program, but I don't know that we captured that in that. So I guess there's two questions: is what was that question about, if it would combine with another program that we have, and then just what additional information would be helpful, like what are we looking to extract from that as far as exploring kind of that tariff on bill program? Is it a high level conversation of just what it is, or is there a deeper dive that we're looking for?
Does anybody have any insight into the context of the question?
I think there's one of the pieces we're trying to determine is how do the IRA incentives influence the on tariff financing. So like, for instance, if someone gets a new heat pump and you get that IRA incentive, how does that factor into the on bill tariff? I believe it's one of the things we were trying to determine. And with the on bill, we we're also curious, like any program information about when it'll be launched, what's the maximum number, what's the maximum amount that can be borrowed, what kind of interest rate are we looking at, what kind of credit checks are needed, what financial institution would be kind of backing it or would go all through Duke, those sort of things.
That would be wonderful to roll into the Electrify program. That's really wonderful. So the timeline for that launch again is February, and I think some of the IRA incentives are rolling out in September. So let's revisit this before then. Does that sound good?
Yes.
We visit maybe December or January, or maybe we can even get the answer to some of those questions offline. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that's okay, I'll circle back with like via email, and then if we want to bring it to a meeting, we can.
Perfect. Thank you, Jonathan.
Absolutely.
As I go through this, I realize that it's going to take more than the time we have allotted to go into all of this. So maybe let's tackle one more, and then we're going to go to another agenda item, and we're going to keep coming back to this list. So I'm really excited to actually have this kind of workshopping in real time and to hammer out how to tackle these big buckets. But this could be a whole day retreat. So we're going to go to just the questions and the ideas around Expand Duke's multifamily and DSM program, and hash out what some next steps can be on those. And then I think we might have to move on. We'll see.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Do we want to send any of these to committee? I know that Keith and Brad were doing an initiative committee. It could be a good next step on some of these, but maybe that's too big of a can to open right now.
Jamie, I think you have something in mind. Which ones do you think are ripe for that?
No, we had Electrify join us and also the emergency microgrid group at that meeting, and so I'm agnostic about which ones move over there, but it could be a way to do some more of the heavy lifting on this without having to do like a full day workshop with everybody here.
Could I jump in on this to just express, this is also the work of the initiatives committee, and there's a lot of what I see is the initiatives that need to get pursued are the initiatives that we can find somebody to champion. And we don't know the answer to all of those things, but I think one of those clearly is the critical services microgrid / agrivoltaics initiative that group is doing. Another example is the Electrify Asheville. I mean, those are two initiatives that we know that there's activity behind, so we need to work with them. And other initiatives that emerge will probably follow the same path. Somebody will express some kind of an interest in that, or of course we've got ongoing initiatives as well.
Sure. That's great. And is there a subcommittee of any specific initiative that's working besides just the initiatives committee? So, like, is there an agrivoltaics committee already running?
Well, there's nominally a transportation committee.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
And
so I think I really want to make sure that when we refer things to a committee, it's actionable and they're able to move balls forward. So I think there's going to be an iterative process with the initiatives committee, and I hope that's feels good to everybody, because it is the work of all of us, and the people on this committee have such insight into these topics and probably can't come to 7 meetings. So we're going to keep something on this on the agenda to move things forward, and it is really important that the initiatives committee is working outside of this meeting to help generate ideas and also to follow up on things that need to be followed, like to take delivery on some of this, because it only so much can be accomplished in this 1 hour meeting. So if that feels
I would just encourage other people to come to the initiatives committee meeting that have an interest, and particularly if you look at the agenda and see that we're going to be covering an initiative that you have an interest in. So if the microgrid was the first one, and there could be some other initiatives or potential initiatives. We'll try to get information out there ahead of time and encourage people to join if that's going to be something that that's of interest to them.
Sure. Thank you. Okay. So I'm still going to run. I think the process that I outlined still makes sense from what I understood from that. So to expand the Duke multifamily and DSM program, advocate for improved accessibility and effectiveness of existing programs, utilize the Duke program's multifamily component, coordinate with Duke DSM managers, collaborate with Asheville Housing Authority for wise implementation, support statewide low-income weatherization RFP for multifamily projects. How is the Blue Horizons project best able to do these things? Where can we advocate for improved accessibility and effectiveness? Does anybody have any insight there?
So I don't know if everybody else sees this, and I have very little familiarity with all of this as specifics. Which, I mean, to go back to what Brad was just saying with the initiatives group, that's why we had the microgrid people come in and do, they kind of gave a summary of what they've been doing and what their goals are, so we can kind of help see how they work into the overall Blue Horizons goals. I mean, if we have somebody who's really well versed in this, we'd be happy to have them come and present at the next initiatives meeting so we can kind of get a better grasp of what they're talking about. Because
So is the answer we don't know?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't know. Somebody else may know, but I don't know.
Okay. Bridget, I remember you talking a bit about this when we all were together in person. Can you take us one step further on this, or should we assign this out to the committee? I don't know if Bridget is still on the call.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Ken.
So, can you say the statement one more time?
Oh, I was asking if anyone, the idea here is advocate for improved accessibility and effectiveness of existing programs. It goes on, and I was asking, well, how do we do that, and who do we do that to? And I think Keith said we might need to assign this to a committee to look at deeper. But I remember you bringing this up, and I wanted to see if you had any insight to add to the conversation before we just say, committee, please explore further.
Well, I think it depends on the program, because I heard some different themes in what you said originally, which was like improving accessibility, expanding programs, and utilizing them. So that's, to me, like 3 different strategies in the previous statement. So if you're talking about getting more people to utilize them, right? So Blue Horizons Project did that previously with like the small business energy savers, where there were people going out, engaging with the business community to try and take advantage of that program. I think there could be strategy around that this committee could be involved in. If it's talking about making comments to influence change and how that program is delivered, then that's something that is like a work group that's like run usually by Duke, and there's something to do with like a docket, and there's some kind of desire to make change in that space, which I think we would need Jennifer to shed some more light on where those working groups exist and where they might be looking for expertise, but that would be a higher time commitment and level of engagement, if that makes sense.
Yes. And here it also says utilize Duke's new programs on multifamily. What I think we need, and what it sounds like to me, is we just need someone who understands these programs to help us understand them a little bit better. Does that sound right?
Michelle, I hate to interject, but I guess to follow up on your question, are we specifically talking about, is there a desire for someone to come in and educate about these programs, or are we saying there's already a base understanding within this group of the programs and the opportunities that exist? I don't want to duplicate efforts, but I guess I'm having a hard time understanding is the ask for us to come in and do like a tutorial on the program and highlight the opportunities, and then go from there as far as how to kind of meet these objectives that are identified here as the 4 ideas.
I was getting the sense from the group that might be helpful, and that's what I was. Are other people getting that sense? and also how we might best partner. You know, if there's a role for us to do maybe community engagement and like how are we helping to funnel people particularly into the multi-family program. It says collaborate with the Asheville Housing Authority. So maybe it makes sense to try to convene some sort of stakeholder group beyond the BHP, or at least announce this as a info session.
I have a question about whether is this on there because Duke is having a hard time getting participants. I think it'd be interesting to know where the gaps are and where we might want to focus on what's missing, and then what this group could bring to the table there. Because do folks have contacts at Asheville Housing Authority? It doesn't seem like the expertise of this group, but if there are gaps from a small business perspective for engagement, maybe we could help there.
Mm-hmm.
If just this Brad, I think if we go back to where this, there was a group that convened to nominate initiatives in the sector of commercial and residential energy efficiency, for the most part, energy efficiency programs. And the idea was that in order to, because that's one of the goals, that's one of the ways we make our strategic plan is to, it doesn't really matter whether we know about the plan or not. What matters is that we figure out a way that we can use our collaboration to enhance the uptake of those programs. And for Duke. So it's really a way for Duke to help improve the uptake of those programs by figuring out how to work with us to make that happen.
Yes, I think perhaps starting with a level of education, and maybe it is for the Blue Horizons Community Council, or maybe it's for a different subset of people. It would be a good first step, is what I think we're saying. So I would appreciate that anyway. I think I have some more to learn about this, and I'm not sure if that needs to happen in a Blue Horizons project meeting or not. So,
I mean, and excuse me once again for interrupting, but the way that I would conceive of that coming about is that we would have a group of people that were organized around the initiative topic of community and residential energy efficiency, and they would identify this is one of several candidate programs and do the investigation and figure out, okay, is there a program in here that we really need to promote and go with? So it would be an initiatives subcommittee of people interested in residential commercial energy efficiency. That's where I think it fits in and how we would do it.
Okay. That might make a lot of sense. So why don't we put this to the committee then to recruit some representatives that might be willing to well, I'm not sure about that. I think we should host. I think we should decide. Probably Jennifer, I'll follow up with you, and maybe we can talk through like what it would look like to host maybe an informational session, and then
maybe that's the way we get the whole thing started.
Exactly, and then if there's people of interest that come forward, that would be really wonderful.
Michelle, I don't want to take any extra time, but I do want to add that maybe it's good to look at this kind of holistically too. I know this is specifically about multifamily and DSM programs, but I think there might be some other programs that we should either talk about or highlight on, just to see if there's synergies there. Let's with just efficiency in mind. So whoever wants to work with them on that, let's I think, approach it like that, and then we'll get somebody from our programs to come in and talk about it. I'll see how much information we can release about who is already doing those programs, so that there's not a duplication of efforts in talking about something that's already occurring. If that makes sense.
That'd be wonderful. Do you think there's maybe models from other cities we should look at?
Yeah, I mean, we can absolutely ask about that. We'll quickly ask. And then, but even people who are participating or entities that are participating here in our region, as far as, so that we're not duplicating and reaching out to someone who's maybe already a participant.
Wonderful. Okay. I think that's time for now. I really appreciate everyone's patience going through this. I know it's a little messy, but I really I want this to be a working group as much as it is a calendar item that we all go to once a month. So I'm trying to play a little bit with the best way to do that. So thank you for walking through those with me. I appreciate it. But we are going to move on to the next agenda item. Oh, the thing that we had tabled at the last meeting is actually in the same agenda item, and that's a brainstorm on how we're bringing in external partners. I think that's just something I want to keep a focus on, is that, and I know that there's going to be, maybe we can take some questions from the Community Outreach and Engagement Committee, is going to be having I think a longer strategic planning conversation coming up. Is that on the 15th? Micah or Summer?
We are, yes. We're meeting on, I believe, Wednesday, November 15th, to lay out, really to be more specific and focused about what the committee is going to be putting its attention into and what we're hoping to accomplish. So we will report out on that in the December meeting.
So my goal in putting how are we engaging external partners on the agenda was really to make sure that we aren't having these conversations in a vacuum, and that our program work is really external facing. And I think that there's individual outreach, which, we have tabling materials, we have some informational materials, but I'm not sure what's happening at the kind of the layer above that with organizational engagement. And I want to think about partnership in a more strategic way. And so that's why I put that on this agenda, but I think I'll just say that and ask that at the December 15th meeting, that be a core area of focus, is that we don't just think about how we're bringing the objectives of the BHP to households and individuals, but to groups and strategic partners. Does anybody have any other kind of thoughts about that, or things they want to add, tack on to that to help inform the conversation of the Outreach and Engagement Committee?
I think it would be helpful to know which organizations, if any, we are collaborating with now.
I would just like to say that we have, through the initiatives committee, we are looking for champions, and a lot of times those looking for champions of initiatives lead us into other groups that are doing similar things. And so in essence, we really need to be creating partnerships. And there are some people that we've talked to, and I've got one in particular in mind that we'll maybe bring to offline, and don't want to take the time of presenting it right now, but I've got one idea of a partnership that might feed into all of that.
Yeah, that's great. And I appreciate the initiative structure, but I think there might be a place before you plug people into subcommittees that is important for relationship development. So, and also for people that are doing, work with an external mission, they may not necessarily see themselves as someone who should be serving on the subcommittee of the committee in the BHP. So there's something before that. that I'm just not sure. Is there a map of partner organizations or even a list of people that have signed something, committed to something they identify as an ally or something like that? And that's a question for staff of the BHP. So Jamie, Sam, Summer.
I can't think of a product like that. But like, you mean like a map of how things are connected, or just like an outline list of partners? Because I can make something.
Yeah. Well, I hear Mike is saying in order to tackle this, the first question is, well, who do we collaborate with? And then my question is, who knows? Does Jamie know? Does Jamie have a list?
There's like two tiers, right? There's like professional collaborations and contracting. So like BHP has us and Electrify, and then we've got other groups that are working on this stuff like CAO that are, you know, professional groups. But then you've got these other list of like tangential folks that are working on the same thing but aren't as directly connected to the BHPCC. So I think I can make you a list. I can split them up like that. Send it back probably, I don't know, next week.
Cool. And I think for me, the goal would be that those people identify as being part of the BHP. So there might be a way to take them from that list and make them more like make them feel like they're more in direct partnership, and maybe the community outreach and engagement committee can think about how that might work.
Nice.
And it's something that's not just a one-time spreadsheet, but it's something that we need to then curate and maintain for the long haul as we grow it.
Sure, absolutely. Does anybody have any thoughts on that before we move on? Anyone who hasn't had a chance to speak yet? Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Keith, who has graciously offered to lead us through a conversation of our bylaws. And specifically, we're going to revisit the section of our bylaws that is Article 5, election of officers. So if there are other people who have burning revision, we can take them up now, or we can put them on the agenda too.
Thank you, Michelle. So yeah, I volunteered to lead this because when we wrote the bylaws, I was chair, and we spent a lot of time on it when we were first forming the community council, which I'm sure you all are now aware. It kind of emerged from the Energy Innovation Task Force. As they sundowned, we formed into the community council, but we revisited the bylaws which were a part of that, and different individuals on the committee, both staff and community council members, they brought forward different sets of bylaws that we liked. And we had some discussions about it. And so then we asked staff to kind of sum it up and create a set of bylaws. And we went through those bylaws about choosing what we liked, what we didn't like. And it was actually probably a 3-month process, something like that. And anybody who was here, I know Dave, you were here, and some other people here, feel free to share your reflections if you would like. So when it came to the bylaws, which is section 3, and I'm just gonna share my screen if I have permission to do that. You should be seeing the articles on the officers. So at the time, before we did this, we'd actually established terms because we had the whole entire community council came on at once. So we then staggered the community council with some of us, about half was going after 2 years. The other half was going off after 3 years, which will be, so at the end of this year, we will have entirely new community council members. And as we went through this, one of the things we talked about was having a kind of an executive council where somebody would move through 3-year rotation with being a vice chair, then a chair, then a past chair. We didn't do that, but we recognized we needed a vice chair and a chair. But based on that 3-year model, you were in the role of chair, vice chair for a year, then you became chair. And so the reality is, though, that we didn't follow that the first time. Because at the end of the first year, I remained chair for the next year. So I was a chair for the first 2 years. And then at the end of 2022, Michelle became chair. So there's kind of an inconsistency there. And because it's a bylaw that we wrote, it's a really good time to have a conversation to figure out what we want to do. Because when we wrote this, we didn't really know. I mean, we were 3 months into a committee and just trying to figure out how we were going to work together to achieve our goals. Should we have any thoughts on this? I'm sure this might be the first time you've looked at the bylaws in a while.
I think haven't looked at them, but I am now. And it seems like it would be a good thing for this group to elect the chair and discuss the timeline for that. I feel like whenever we made that decision, it was very quick and I wasn't quite sure. I was so new to the council, I wasn't quite sure what was happening. So it seems like for something that, I do think we should be electing chairs and vice chairs and discussing tenure as a council.
So one of the things, go ahead.
I'd kind of like to suggest that we also move it from December to January. I'm thinking of myself, I'm going off of the council after the December meeting, and it seems a little strange that I would be part of the group deciding who is going to run the council that I won't be on.
So in the plan that we were kind of frameworking it on, when you were elected as a vice chair for a 2-year term, 1 year as vice chair, and the next as chair. But it also was supposed to happen in December. So somebody who was going to be on the council for the next 2 years would then take that role, but it's somebody who was already on the council, so they were familiar with it and how it was working. But as to when, I think you've got a great point there, Dave, because if we have it in December, if we have that election in December, then that's a great point.
I'm also thinking in terms of, doesn't city council wait till the first meeting when a new council is in to do this sort of thing?
I think city council, the mayor is elected directly, right? So
Yeah, but the vice mayor is chosen by the council. I'm not sure. I just tossed that out there.
I will say there is a bit of a learning curve in taking on the leadership role. There are relationships that take a while to solidify and to even really understand. So there are groups that do more than 1 year of officer roles.
And as somebody who did serve for 2 years, I mean, the second year there was a lot of learning going on that first year. Yeah, I think that there's some value in having a longer term, the 2-year term. I thought that I myself was able to be much more productive and much more focused, and we got a lot more done in the second year. That's partially because we were the second year, but also it was at least easier.
Yeah, I feel like most boards that I've been on have been 2 years, just to get everything running efficiently, which makes sense to me. I'm just interested in action, as much as action as we can create. And I think letting that person kind of engross themselves in the beginning and then be able to really focus on the mechanics of making sure that everything's running efficiently would take more than a year, personally.
I also like the idea of biannual elections and chairs having the opportunity for 2-year terms. And I think, as Micah said earlier, that being more of a like nominate, discuss, elect process. I think voted on that on my first meeting, which felt fast for understanding what the purpose was for that role.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for the group. The way the bylaws are currently written, it says December. I think I hear Dave saying, you know, and actually what we did what Mike is referring to, and or what Clary, excuse me, I'm sorry, is referring to is it was everybody's first meeting. We said, okay, who's going to be chair and who's going to be vice chair, or who's going to be vice chair, and people were like, I don't know. So I guess that's the debate between December and January. There could also be an amendment to do it, you know, mid-year or something. It does seem potentially challenging to do officer elections on the first meeting.
Yeah, I don't think it makes sense. I was very, very confused.
I'm very willing to retract that suggestion.
Oh, well,
it was just a thought.
No, I mean, sorry.
Well, and I think that was one of the thoughts behind having the vice chair elected in December. So there's a year of experience for the person who was volunteering to be vice chair, and we didn't do it in December. Like I said, we didn't follow our own bylaws that we just wrote. So that way we were ensuring that the vice chair had an experience and knew what they were getting into. And that was the reason for that. Let's see if I can find that there. I don't want to stifle thought and conversation, but I mean, it would be an easy bylaw change to make it a 2-year term by changing it to biannually. So we just have to add 2 letters and a hyphen. And I'm not even sure if we need the hyphen.
We need a motion to approve that?
I just want a friendly point. In hearing the thoughts, I do hear election biannually though. So if you did the way that bylaws read now, if you did biannually, there would be a 4-year officer term. And I think if I hear the sentiment of the group, they want to re-elect officers and potentially biannually, but not just assume the transition. Is that right? Yeah. So, unfortunately, it is not that simple of a bylaw change. You have to change a couple more words.
You can try to keep it under 3. So that's true. There are 2 different issues there, because do we want the vice chair to be elected independently rather than the vice chair sequencing into being the chair, which is a different model, but it's used very often.
I think
I know you're not asking for my advice, but I'll just throw out there that the Sustainability Advisory Committee, they do the elections. I think they're 2-year terms, but you elect both each time. And I think that gives some flexibility for if people like move on, right? Because sometimes people's situation changes. That allows them also to be reelected, to have some longevity if that capacity is available.
Bridget, we always appreciate your opinion.
I think that makes sense too. Appreciate Bridget. And also, since we're only serving 3 years, it doesn't make sense really to have someone serving 4, right? So
yeah.
So is there a motion?
motion to approve changing the bylaws.
I guess, is there a proposed amendment?
Would somebody want to put it in writing so that people can see it consistently?
So yeah, I was working on that. Let me.
Sorry.
I also think there's an issue here if you're talking 2-year terms and 3-year terms and 2-year positions, that you're basically saying you can only elect people to the office out of the second term. You're removing 2/3 of your board because you're not going to put a new person in that spot, and you're not going to put a person in their 3rd year of their term. So you're basically removing 2/3 of your members from consideration for chair every time that it comes up. And some people would never be able to be the chair because you'd have to join the right year to be up for that 2-year thing. I'm not sure that the 2-year, 3-year, it may make more sense to offer extending the term for the person so that you open it to all members of the board to become chair.
I think that's a good point, Jim. I will say, you have a 3-year term and you're eligible to serve a second term. So if you became chair and your term was to end, you could also just serve a second term.
All right. I'm trying to find my chat. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Oops. Well, that wasn't what I meant to do. For those of you who don't know, this is what our Google Drive looks like. I'm not sure why it's not giving me the close chat button. Usually doesn't want to go up here or down here. Oh. So, anybody have any help on why I can't close the share screen?
Yeah. I think the host might be able to stop the screen share if that's what. Yep.
There we go. Appreciate that. Okay. So here is just, I'm going to put it in chat. I mean, that's the simple change, which would resolve part of, it would certainly resolve if we just made it a biannual election in December, and we could add the next section, the chair and vice chair will serve 2-year terms, or we could have the vice chair serve 1-year terms if they wanted to. I don't know. And it could be we need to that we would like the chair to be a 2-year position. We've come into a consensus that that the vice chair and chair will be elected in. It doesn't have to be December. That's what we used before. That was not actually resolved, but or another time in the year. And again, the chair will serve 2 years. The vice chair doesn't necessarily have to serve 2 years. They could serve 1 year and serving as a vice chair and doing all the duties that the vice chair does. And it could be a different person every other year also. I personally like having the elections in December. But
this meeting is being recorded.
Is it a motion, Keith?
I guess it's a motion.
So if I heard the motion, I'm just going to chair. I'm going to jump back into the chair and let you carry. Thank you for carrying the agenda item, though. So the motion is to have biannual elections of officers in December.
I second that.
Okay. For members only on this one, if you could just indicate in the chat a yay or a nay, so that we can have a roll call on this one. And I think that's all members present. If there's any abstentions, that's okay. You could just say I'm abstaining as well. And I think the only Jennifer, sorry to call you out, but you can say you're abstaining if that's okay. But just if we could just get that for the record, that'd be helpful.
Did it not show up?
I don't.
I'm there. I'm JB. Well, here, I'll do it again.
Thank you. Sorry. So Micah, yay. Clara, yay. Dave, yay. Keith, yay. Rocky, yay. Ben, nay. Me, yay. Jennifer, yay. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. I think for bylaws change, it's important to have a count. So I appreciate that. All right. Bylaws changes are never fun, but I appreciate the thought that everyone put into that conversation. And I think it's important, this is a relatively new group, so we're learning as we go. So
I'm going to go ahead and put the bylaw in the chat just so we capture it in case that's what we voted on, right? Oh, wait, I have to hit enter.
Yeah.
All right. I'm done.
Thank you. You did a great job. I appreciate it. All right. We have not gotten to old business. Let me see what's even in there. We have touched on a few things. I guess we really do need an update from the recruitment effort. Do we have any applications? When are interviews scheduled? What's going on?
Am I speaking on this point?
I think Dave or Ben and I'm spacing on her name.
Jackie.
Jackie, thank you. And Jackie.
But we've had everything has been sent to Jamie. The materials all said to send applications to Jamie.
I haven't gotten any applications. I do have 2 responses on the Google form. No interviews are yet scheduled, as far as I know.
So the Google form is different than an application?
It's the same thing.
Okay, so 2 applicants. That's great. And then did we send it? I just want to make sure we sent it to the folks that participated in the strategic plan, BIPOC stakeholder group.
I've asked both Jay Hackett and Anthony Lynch to forward it to the other task force members. I can double check to make sure that they did so.
I think that's very important. And the deadline is coming up November 6th. So if everyone could take a moment and think about anybody in their network that might be interested or a place that it could be posted. I think the committee's done a really good job of sending it to even local media. So thank you so much for all of that work. And I think the application packet looks really wonderful. The other item here is what to include in, I have an announcement. Brownie Newman has announced that he's not running for re-election and is not going to be serving out, or his term is up on the BHP, and he's going, well, he has 1 more year left of being the chair of the county commission. He is going to roll off for the BHP, and Parker Sloan is going to be filling his seat here. So Parker has, I think, 1 more year left in his term. So then there will be an election, but Parker's been invited to the December meeting, and Brownie apologizes for not being able to attend. And he has shared with me that he is just having some medical issues in the family. So keep him in your thoughts. And I thanked him very much for his leadership to date. And I don't think he's going to be at the December meeting, but okay. I did do some research on code of conduct, and I found out that there is an ethics statement that all citizen advisory committees, they don't have to sign it, but it's like part of their orientation packet. And it's essentially like a code of conduct Not all of it is directly applicable to this group, so we would have to edit it. We can't like take it whole cloth. There's just some provisions in there that don't make sense for this kind of working group. I've also seen some corporate codes of conduct that are a little more visionary, actually, and they go back to like how they want to be and present in the community, and I like that. So I think I'll bring something that kind of merges those two things, which is one is like strictly kind of like, you know, literally just, you know, like code of conduct, like how you use our email list and how to present yourself on social media and things like that are in the ethics statement from the city. And then the other one I've seen is just kind of more like a little more aspirational, and I'm going to merge those and present something to review at the next committee, and then that can be included in the January new member packet. We have an announcement on our DEI committee. Will be, save the date, same time as our regular meeting, but it's going to be at City Hall. Here on the agenda, February 7th, 3 p.m. And maybe we could ask if we could have that meeting for 2 full hours, or that space for at least 2 full hours. So afterwards we can kind of not feel rushed out. So from Jamie, do you know if we have it for longer than just the meeting block time?
What's at the city? I can ask Kira about how long she
Kira's
wants to.
still on. We can just ask Kira.
I see Kira.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm looking at
What
the
day is it?
calendar. Go ahead,
Okay.
Bridget.
I was just asking what day it was so I could look it up.
February 7th.
I have it currently reserved from 3 to 4:30, but I can look to adjust the reservation. I'll let you know.
Okay, great, thank you. And then in the last 5 minutes, can we just run through, the policy task force did not meet, but I have been having some good conversations with friends and mostly just people who support the Blue Horizons project that serve in government in different ways. So it was really wonderful. I'm just bad with names today. Anyway, including folks that works in planning, also different city council members. So we'll meet soon once I have some idea of what their ideas on what might actually be actionable. So look for that meeting announcement. We talked about the community engagement committee coming up on December 15th. Is there anything else that committee wants to report out or ask in advance of that meeting? Okay.
No, I believe so.
Great. Looking forward to hearing what comes out of that. And then we heard a bit about the initiative task force. I heard that the microgrid, there was a microgrid presentation. Anything else from the initiatives task force? I had one initiative that we may want to endorse as part of our transportation. One of our transportation initiatives, Keith, I hadn't had a chance to talk to you about this, but I'll just bring it up. Is the idea of reducing vehicle miles traveled and moving to more walkable, bikeable, more dense community structures. And I had a meeting earlier this week, a Monday, with Susan Bean at Mountain True, and she is responsible for a campaign that Mountain True is organizing called, I think it's Neighbors for More Neighbors. But basically it's a campaign to it's both a policy and advocacy. It's basically an advocacy for policy changes to change zoning to allow more infill development. Mm-hmm. And that is, you know, there are various ways that could go, but I think we should get behind that as a committee, both from a policy and from just an organizational kind of thing, because it is one of the ways that we, you know, can move us towards less transportation costs, less transportation energy being consumed. I have invited her to speak at our next initiatives committee meeting so she can inform the initiatives
team about her campaign.
Well, additionally, with the transportation, Strive has actually returned, which was Strive Not to Drive for many years in Asheville, but it's also a pedestrian bike commuting program. We haven't figured out what programs we're going to do, but it's focused on voluntary efforts. It rewards people who do these things. At a meeting next week, the week after, sometime before Thanksgiving. Also, if you'd like to be in a parade, the Clean Air Campaign is in the Asheville Parade. And if you want to ride on a propane bus, or if you want to bring your alternative fueled vehicle, your e-bike, or your one wheel, or we've got some high-tech off-road wheelchairs that are custom made in Madison County. Anyway, come talk to me if you want to be in a parade, which is
you might want to try to get the microgrids golf carts in there.
Well, they were in last year.
Okay, guys, we're running
Sorry.
time. Appreciate it. Microgrid golf carts. We can try to get one of those, please. And it sounds like you would like us to consider supporting the Neighbor to Neighbor Urban Infill Development Campaign, or More Neighbor.
Neighbors for More Neighbors.
You're going to have a presentation, as it sounds like, on the initiatives committee, and then maybe the initiatives committee would like to post something for the agenda that we could approve at the next meeting, unless there is a policy reason why they need that statement earlier. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And I think that there's a happy hour coming up. Is that right, Jamie? Or Summer?
Sorry, I'm working with one screen. I had to switch.
Okay.
Wednesday the 15th, I want to say, is the number. Yep, and it is in the evening at New Belgium from 12 Craven Street. Is that New Belgium?
It's New Belgium.
It's actually immediately following the community engagement committee meeting at the same location. So I don't know, they might be a couple beers ahead of y'all. Maybe y'all should come to the community engagement meeting. It's gonna be a good time.
Okay, that's officially a Blue Horizons Project happy hour now. Other volunteers are welcome, but we are co-opting it to make it our happy hour. Thank you. So what time is it starting? Sorry.
5 to 7.
5 to 7. Wonderful. All right. Does anybody have any public comment or a general member comment or announcements before we adjourn? All right. Well, thank you to the guests. Welcome to the AmeriCorps folks that are joining us. Really happy to have you here, even Rory, and look forward to continued conversation. Everyone, take care. Stay warm. It's cold out there.
Thank you.